Well, spring has officially sprung. I hope you heard the sprung sound. Here in Utah, we had a warm front come through, and a couple of days ago it was 85 degrees. A big cold front came through, and now it's down to 65 degrees. So I've set aside, well, I haven't set aside, but I'm not working on the coaling tower for the next couple of days just because I thought it would be fun to survey the outdoor railroad and see what damage has been done by all the snow and winter, and repair anything that needs repairing and get the track up and running out here. My plan is not to actually do any extensive expansion of the outdoor railroad, just get it up and running and call it good, because what I really want to focus on is finishing up the engine shop inside. But it's also fun to occasionally fire up a train and just drive it from one end of the railroad to the other, which we can now do since the track is now contiguous all the way from the switching yard all the way to the west end of the main line. But there's a tiny bit of damage out here that needs to be addressed. You can see here where the outer wood guardrail on the truss bridge here has warped and come up, and that's sticking up high enough that it will snag on a locomotive as it comes by. So this is going to have to be addressed, and there's other places along this guardrail that need to be repaired. And the guardrail is bolted down to the ties, and the bolt goes all the way through to the truss, and it's those bolts actually hold the deck to the truss, so it's a very important piece of the bridge. At some point I may replace this guardrail with brass so that this doesn't happen anymore, but for the time being I'm just going to glue everything in place using some wood glue ultimate, Gorilla wood glue ultimate. Put some daubs along in there and then clamp everything in place, and that may fix the problem permanently. And if not, like I say, at some point in the future I may take these up and just replace them with metal pieces instead. The trees out here are quite happy. They're enjoying the spring, and there's all kinds of new growth on those, so that's really fun to see. Nice to see that none of them have suffered at all through the winter. There's teeny tiny bits of damage to the concrete scenery out here made out of mortar mix. For the most part it's just fine, but there's one place here where a whole section came loose. And as is my previous technique here, I'm going to leave it alone because I think it has kind of a nice natural look to it. I'll just break off any actual loose pieces, and then if there is any place that'll look better if I do a little repair work, I'll do the repair work. But generally speaking, I just consider that natural erosion. As the ballast out here is all on the loose, a lot of it has sort of moved around and got up on top of the rails and in places where it doesn't belong. I thought about vacuuming up all the ballast in the fall so that it wouldn't be out here come spring. And I may go back to that thinking. It's not hard to take it up with the shop vac, and it's certainly not hard to put it back down. So I think it's easier to clean up in the spring in the areas where there isn't any ballast. And so I think next fall I'm just going to go through with the vacuum and pick it all up. Because there is a bit of, twig and broken things and decayed leaves that have fallen on here. And I can blow those off with the leaf blower. It's just that with the ballast in place, then it wants to blow the ballast away too. So I think I'll just pick the ballast up next fall. There's dirt all over the buildings, and you can see that, like so many people, I never got the Christmas lights taken down. So I need to take down the Christmas lights, and I need to wash the dirt off of the buildings and get those looking good. For some reason, the neighbor's dog's chew bone got tossed up here and lodged in behind the gazebo. That's a little bit strange. So I picked up the doggy's bone and threw it back over the fence so the dog can enjoy it. There's a fair amount of damage to the wood boardwalk out here. especially in this area right here where the glue's all come loose and therefore the wood's all on the loose. Should be pretty easy to fix. I just need to clean it all up and glue it back in place. It actually has a wonderful ghost town look to it, but we're not doing a ghost town, so this needs to be straightened up. Mostly there's just a bunch of detritus that needs to be cleaned up and some little bits of scenery that have come loose that need to be put back where they belong. But the first thing to do is to just go through here and pick up all of the twigs, branches, walnut shells, and various things that have found their way down onto the track, which is going to make operating the trains impossible. So the thing to do here is to just do a walkthrough, picking up the larger pieces and then fire up the leaf blower and blow the rest of it away. We have a couple of squirrels living out here, and so last fall Karen and I put out a bunch of walnuts for them, and I can see where they really enjoyed the walnuts, but they left behind a lot of walnut detritus that needs to be cleaned out. So first up, let's take down the Christmas lights. I turned them all on just to test them to make sure that they got through the winter okay. And for the most part, they wintered just fine. I can turn them on and they're working well. We came up with an idea to put the electronics in a plastic bag and then put that plastic bag in another plastic bag and secure the whole thing with rubber bands. And a lot of the rubber bands came loose, but for the most part, the bags kept everything sealed and everything was fine. It's easier taking the Christmas lights down than putting them up because I didn't have hooks, and so last fall, part of the installation was putting in hooks, which are just going to be left here now. Half of the Christmas lights had their electronics just setting behind the buildings, so the snow ended up on top of the plastic bags and so on, so they were exposed to the weather. But some of the lights, I put the Christmas lights still inside a bag, but then also inside of a building. These two power supplies were inside the freight depot, and they're just fine. They look like they're brand new. Unfortunately, one of the power supplies that was just out behind a building underneath the snow, the plastic bags developed a leak and water got inside there, and well, it's ruined. So this particular string of Christmas lights will go directly to the trash can. And while I'm testing Christmas lights, I also want to test all of the outdoor lighting out here to make sure that none of that wiring has gotten damaged. And everything seems to be coming on and working fine. One of the overhead lanterns, the flickering flame in the overhead lantern didn't come on. And on close inspection, I could see where a squirrel had eaten away the wire. So easy fix. The outdoor restrooms are a little bit filthy. Those need to be cleaned up. That seems to be the way with bathrooms. You just have to clean them all the time. Especially in the spring, and especially with a public restroom like this. It's at this moment that I really wish that I had picked up the ballast, because all these little leaves and sticks that are mixed down in here are kind of down in the ballast, and this whole process would be so much easier. I could just hit this whole thing with the leaf blower. But if I do that, it blows all my ballast away too. So next year I'm going to use the shop vac and just pick up all the ballast and then put that back down in the spring. As I'm going through here, I'm pleasantly surprised that most things have come through the winter quite nicely. There's just a bunch of junk that needs to be cleaned up. Typical spring cleaning. And past the village, I didn't ballast. So down here, I don't have to worry about that. I can just take out my Ego leaf blower. The name has always struck me as funny, an ego blower. Sounds like a sycophant. Anyway, I could just take my ego blower and just blow all of this junk, squirrel nut shells, and just tons and tons of stuff down here, and it all just blows away nicely. So that's why I'm thinking this whole process would be so much easier if I just pick up the ballast. The original plan was to finish the west end down here, put in the big turning Y so the tracks don't just come down here and end. But I'm going to put that off till next year. I'd really much rather get the locomotive shop and the whole inside all finished first. All of these Burwood building fronts from the 1970s, they were intended to just be hung up inside your house. And they weather so nicely outside. They've got dirt on them, but everything here will just clean up quite nicely. This is a Pola kit. The buildings out here are all Pola kits, and there again, they've been out all winter, and well, they winter just fine. All of them are just setting in place so I can easily pick them up if they need maintenance or cleaning. But for the most part, I'm just going to leave them in place and hose them off. The bathroom being the exception because I need to clean up the interior, and the best way to do that is just lift the whole building up. I think Karen and I have been in some public restrooms where they really need to have that same feature where they can just lift the whole building off the foundation and take a fire hose to the inside and then put the building back in place. So I've got one of these cheap little nozzles that you can pick up on Amazon, and it works great for this. I can turn the pressure down and come through here and just start hosing off any dirt that's gotten in place, hose off the building fronts and the Pola kits, and just clean all the loose dirt and everything off. The bathroom here, look how easily this cleans up the bathroom. I can just spray it on there and clean all the gunk right out of there. And down here at the west end, I can turn the pressure all the way up and just blast everything free. And what bits of leaf and debris and nuts and whatever's been left out here just gets blown completely away, and it cleans up quite nicely. Now that is a clean bathroom. If only it smelled a little bit like Fabuloso, it would be perfect. But it's a nice, perfectly clean bathroom. And now I can just set the building back in place, and ta-da! Wonderful, clean public restrooms once again. The big train platform has come through quite nicely. No problems with that. But the little walkway between the station and the platform curled up, and well, it's just destroyed. So I'm just going to rebuild the whole thing and have it as a removable piece so I can just take it in the winter. And a lot of the sidewalk boards, the boardwalk boards, have come loose. I'm just going to glue them back in place and call it good enough. I kind of like their really curled and weathered look. And as typical after a big spring rainstorm, even if it happens to be a man-made spring rainstorm caused by a garden hose, there's still quite a bit of street flooding, as you would find. And actually, I think that looks kind of cool. I like this aspect of garden railroading because you do run into these natural things that occur in the natural world, and it's just kind of fun to see the streets of your model railroad all flooded this way. And I'm going through on the boardwalk sidewalk here and pulling up on any boards that may be loose to make sure that anything that's even partially loose is pulled loose so that I can clean the area up and re-glue everything back in place. So I'm just lifting these sections out and then going through and cleaning up where the glue joints were, get all of the old crusty glue out of there. And then just re-gluing it again using Gorilla Glue, Wood Glue Ultimate, and then securing that in place with these zinc bricks that we have left over from casting zinc, which we don't do anymore. And the fact that the wood has taken on a wonderful patina, crusty appearance, I think just adds to the overall look. But everything's cleaned up nicely. It looks great to just get all of the dirt and debris off of the buildings themselves, and the buildings all come to life when they're not covered with a coating of dirt. And same thing over here at the Nevermind. Just kind of hose off the building, and the scenery itself, of course, is just scenery. Let scenery be scenery. I gave all of the trees a nice healthy drink of water because they appreciate that. And it's pretty much time too to run the lawnmower around in here. The grass is starting to look a little bit scruffy. Okay, let's run some trains. Now keep in mind I have not cleaned the track at all. Truth of the matter is I almost never clean the track out. Well, in fact, I never clean the track out here. We're using this Yagas Creek nickel-silver track, and for the most part, I don't even really need to clean it. The locomotive sound system's cutting in and out right through here, meaning that, yeah, it's losing contact with the track. So I'll just go through, maybe I'll wipe that down with a little bit of mineral spirits. Also, just simply running some trains out here usually cleans things right up. But for the most part, everything's running just fine, in spite of the fact that this track has never been cleaned. Mexicano 14 here doesn't like going downhill for some reason. Even if it's not being pushed by cars this way, there's something about its gearbox. It wants to sort of surge when it's going down grade. The rest of the time, it's just fine. There's some little bits of ballast that have worked their way into places that they shouldn't be, flangeways here on the switch and so on, that are creating some little bumps. I just kind of need to go through here and make sure all my flangeways are clear and I don't have any ballast in places it doesn't belong. Well, at this point, I almost feel like firing up the barbecue. At any rate, what I am going to do is switch back over to the coaling tower and get the engine shop done inside. And hopefully you're going to want to follow along with all of these adventures. And so if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe by clicking on the upcoming blue button. Zoink! Right there, the blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this video on the internet. We sure hope you didn't find it boring, and Karen and I will see you here on Sunday with some more fun. See you then. Bye-bye.